Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're here with Stache, also known as Crypto Stache, and we're going to be talking about a bunch of different things: DeFi, earning passive income with crypto, NFTs, just a ton of stuff. So just before we dive in, if you'd like to give a little introduction about yourself for people who don't know you, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, hey, thanks for having me, Scott. I go by Crypto Stash in the whole greater crypto world here. I've been involved in crypto actually since 2014. Early 2014 is when I first actually bought in. I kind of researched a little bit before then, had seen it actually a year prior, but I was like, this is a scam. This can't be working. Actually, the first time I saw about Bitcoin was early 2013, and it was just through a news article. And I followed the link, and it was a very basic article. It was just something on a news forum. And I went and followed the link to go look to where you could buy it. And then I saw that there was another coin called Litecoin, and I was like, no, this can't be legit. So I didn't buy it. But then I did some research. It came across my eyes again in the end of 2013, and that's when I was like, that's when I read the white paper. I actually dove into the technology of how it actually worked. I work in the tech sector, so I've been in web development and running my own company here for over a decade. And so it made a lot of sense to me when I actually read the code and the ethos behind it, So, kind of jump forward in 2017, I started my website, cryptostache.com, because I kept getting people asking me the same questions over and over again, because I was like the only person anybody knew in my circles that knew anything about Bitcoin. So if it
Mhm.
came up, people were asking me because they're like, "Oh, I know he knows something about that." So I just started, kind of with a very basic blog that kind of chronicled my own adventures, and I would refer people and say, "Hey, here's the stuff that I've done, or here's a couple of articles I've written." And so I started off actually doing a lot of writing in crypto, and wrote a bunch until I got into doing video, and then got more immersed in the actual community, which has been one of the best parts actually about it. So I come from a tech background, and I have always approached this from the educational point. So I started doing educational classes actually in my own in-person classes in my own hometown here in Long Beach, and I found out that there was a lot of people who were interested in learning, and typically of a older demographic, right? People who are not so well versed of learning online, but wanted to do it in a hands-on kind of experience. And so I've done that. I've done online courses as well to help people from that course, which did okay as far as an online course goes. But in general, I do love the educational element of it, and that's where I have really focused on here the past 3 or so years. And I'm also a really big gamer, so I've been gaming my entire life, and as this cryptocurrency world has blossomed here since the last few years, and there's been what we now consider blockchain gaming as a space. I've loved the two, kind of convergences of those aspects of two of my loves, right? From blockchain and gaming, and so I focus a lot of my content and educational things on that now, as well as NFTs. So I was actually one of the very first content creators. That was the first content creator to have his own NFT, which I can
Mm.
validate on the blockchain, which is pretty cool. So I did that through Engine when they were first coming out and doing these, and I've done a bunch of work here with NFTs since then too. So definitely in both sides of the world, and that's a little bit about what I do. That's the stash right there in 2 points.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I really like how gaming is really starting to get more involved in the space, and I think that's going to be really, really big for adoption. So, given that that's like a big focus of yours, I'd love to dive into NFTs and gaming first, because that's probably where I have less expertise, so to say, or experience in that. So you talked about how you made one of the first NFTs. For people who don't really like, they're not really aware of what NFTs are, do you want to just first break that down?
Oh yeah. So when you talk about, well, what is an NFT, it's not the best title. When you say, okay, well,
Yeah.
what's an NFT? It stands for non-fungible token, which essentially just means something that's unique, right? So if I have a quarter, I could use that quarter anywhere. I could exchange you for another quarter. It wouldn't make a difference. They're all the same. They're all worth 25 cents. Now they do have some different properties about them, but in general, they're all valued in a very similar way. And so, when you have these non-fungible tokens, they're tokens that are unique in some sort of way. One Bitcoin is the same as any other one Bitcoin when it comes down to, well, what does it do? Can I exchange one for one? Yes, of course. But an NFT is just a unique digital asset or digital collectible that is not like another asset. So another example would be like house. I wouldn't trade my house for your house straight up. It's just not how that works, right? These are unique assets as well, but they're physical assets. And an NFT is just a digital asset that is unique and not fungible with another asset itself. So, what that really means, and it has a lot of use cases, obviously. You can use it for anything from, crypto art, which is a very booming scene right now, but also in gaming, it's used quite a bit. And that's where we saw some of the first applications of these NFTs. And we've had, multiple standards that these are actually built upon. Starting off with CryptoKitties, which was one of the very first ones that was exploded onto the scene in late 2017, and there's been a plethora of copycats, we'll say, pun intended, and other projects that have popped up that use these, and so now the blockchain gaming verse or ecosystem is actually developing really nicely. It's one of those things where there's a lot of work to be put into it, but using those items in different games or being able to trade them on marketplaces, some of them have just there's the wide variety of use cases for NFTs is just amazing to me, honestly.
Sorry, I'm just muting my phone here. Yeah, no, I think it's just really, really awesome how quickly it sort of exploded. Where do you think or maybe not think, you might know, where's the biggest like concentration of NFTs right now? Is it like collectibles? Is it gaming? Like what are your thoughts there, or if you have some insight to share?
The biggest concentration, yeah, I mean I would say right now, collectibles are probably one of the larger concentrations, and I'll even say well, I guess that wouldn't include art, but the art scene is exploding as well. But collectibles have kind of had quite a long history before the art scene really took off. So they're because that was one of the first applications. You have this NFT that represents some sort of collectible thing, but it's not necessarily used inside of a game per se. And I think that the reason being is that these games that are blockchain based or use NFTs in some sort of way in their actual gameplay, it takes a lot longer for them to develop. Putting out a collectible set of something that's an NFT is actually a lot faster. Usually, just art that you're generating in some sort of rarity scale, right? These cards are rarer than these ones. We have legendaries, epics, things like that. So I would say that collectibles have probably dominated the scene here, but the art scene is quickly moving in that direction, especially with platforms like Rarible that they allow anybody to jump on, start creating art, and it's kind of a way to also yield farm their token, which is kind of interesting concept of that versus what we've seen in some of the other art platforms where they're much more curated. So not just anybody can jump on and start creating or putting pieces for sale. So yeah, I mean, definitely collectibles, but art is coming up here pretty quick. And the blockchain gaming space is definitely there as well. But there's been a little bit of we'll say a roadblock almost here in the last 6 months because of Ethereum transaction fees. And that's hurt anything that is on Ethereum, essentially anything NFT based, whether it's a collectible, a gaming token, or art piece, because you're not going to be paying $10 if fees for a $5 collectible, or you know what I'm saying, or something of that nature. Even if a crypto art is $25 or $30 worth of Ethereum, and you have to spend 10 to get it, is it really worth it at that point? Maybe not.
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's why I believe it's on OpenSea .com is where you pay one time and then you sign transactions, but you don't have to actually spend the gas fees for each transaction. So I thought that was a really good way to sort of alleviate some of those fee issues because yeah, like what are your thoughts for future like NFTs? Like, do you think we need to get away from Ethereum? Do you think it just needs to kind of figure out the gas fees? Do you think people should be like what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean those gas fees are crushing people in every
Yeah.
way, shape, and form. Developers, traders, things like of that nature. Just average people don't want to pay those fees. And
Hmm.
like I said, the majority of the NFT scene has kind of been developed on Ethereum, but we've also seen other blockchains start to explode. Not necessarily just because of the fees. That's definitely helped it, but just because of the ecosystem that they've been building. These kind of second gen NFT blockchains like Wax. They've been doing some amazing, amazing work there with NFTs, and I've been working with Wax for quite some time. And they have they're an EOS.io based their own chain, based on that technology, and that gives you zero transaction fees. So you can go and trade these things back and forth a lot. And the secondary marketplaces have been incredibly hot here the last couple of months, doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in transactions on the daily. And so there's a lot of other places out there that are doing this, that are creating these standards. A couple other ones like Flow, Phantasma, and even like recently, like Zilliqa has been messing with some NFT based stuff, which has been interesting. So they're whereas it's not exploding and being crazy like the DeFi scene is right now. There's a lot of work being done in the background, and I definitely feel the NFTs are going to have that kind of explosion here in the future. It just is something that we need to have a little bit of better handle on, because whereas things may work, Ethereum fees that are really high may be okay for people who are farming tokens or putting large transactions through for some of these liquidity pools. It's not necessarily viable for an NFT. So we have to make sure we have really great rails. But like I said, second gen blockchains that are built for this, purpose built for NFTs, are really starting to come to light here and shine in a big way.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and for NFT art, like I know there's some social media platforms like Creary where people can post them as well and earn like that. But in terms of actually like selling art and trading and all that good stuff, do you think like like for people who are just getting into this space, how do they differentiate between like buying a collectible versus like buying art, and like how do they know that the art it will like hold its value? Like because the way that I sort of looked at it first was I was like, oh, like when I first got into it, I didn't really know anything. I was thinking, oh, like this is probably tokenized art or something,
Yeah.
where it's like real art in the form of tokens, but it's
Mhm.
not. It's actual digital art, and you're buying the actual digital art. So can you just kind of speak to like how can people be confident in like the value and how that's all kind of building out right now?
Yeah, I mean, just to really quickly speak on the digital versus physical, there actually are artists that do both. So the people that
Okay.
they'll do a physical piece, and then they'll do digital versions of that piece in a limited way, or maybe just a one of one. So
Okay.
you're right. A lot of it is very digitally focused right now, the art pieces. But there are
Yeah.
some really interesting artists that do things. One of my friends, Coldy, is a really great artist, and he's done some things like that too. And I know Josie Bellini has also done some things like that. She's also a very popular crypto artist. So it is being done, and there are people. Besta is another one where they have actual art pieces that they tokenize the real one, and you can get sometimes they're bundled together, sometimes they're separate. But as far as how do you know it's going to hold value? That's just like any other art piece. You look at it, it's something you like. You think maybe other people are going to like. Maybe it's going to, the artist is going to be very popular in the future. And you speculate, thinking, hey, if I love this, I could have it in my bedroom. Maybe I sell it later for a profit. Who knows? So the same kind of deal works here in the digital realm. Is that there's no real guarantee that something you buy is going to hold value. So if you bought it for one ETH, that you're not going to be able to sell it for more later, or possibly less. It's just like pretty much anything else. If that artist is popular and people really love their work, we've seen some pretty big resales in the art world, the crypto art world here recently. So it's definitely possible that you also lose money on it though as well. So I mean,
Yeah.
there's no real way anybody can guarantee that in general. Just like they couldn't guarantee if you bought a Jackson Pollock that in a year from now it's going to be worth $100,000 more, or that it will lose value. I mean, that's a pretty, probably if you bought a Jackson Pollock or something, then you would be fairly confident that that's going to continue to increase in value because it's a very popular artist. And so you could say the same thing with crypto-based art. If you're really looking to have something that you want to increase in value, or that's going to hold a good trade, value here in the future, you probably want to look at some of the more popular crypto artists and look for some of their work. But that doesn't mean that supporting small artists is not going to then get you a bigger return, because you may be able to snap something up that is far cheaper than getting one of these big guys, one of these very popular artists' piece of work. And then, they blow up and people are like, oh, I love their stuff, or they're just coming onto the scene. A lot of times we'll see that too, is a lot of new artists coming onto the scene very quickly, and they've only done maybe one or two pieces. People haven't found them yet, right? They haven't been discovered.
Mhm.
And then when people do, their pieces start to increase in value because of the demand.
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. So for blockchain gaming, in terms of like how integrated are the games? Are you playing more, or are you aware of more games that are fully integrated with blockchain, or like games that just have like skins that are using NFTs? Like what does the landscape of blockchain gaming look like right now?
Well, the landscape of blockchain gaming is quite varied, my friend. There are a lot of things going on, and people using NFTs in gaming in so many different ways. So we'll start like, so if I want to really, if I was going to start someplace, the project that I've been closely associated with for a long time, which is Engine. Engine is an Ethereum-based project, and their whole idea is to create the multiverse, right? So this Ready Player One, Oasis style fluid gaming network, where the items that you're earning in one game can be taken to another game and to another one, and you can use them in different ways across all these different games. And so building this multiverse has been one of the main goals there. And they've done that in a couple of different ways, but really providing tools for developers, like SDK tools, which help developers to incorporate blockchain into their game quickly without having to do all the background work themselves and build out all these blockchain standards and things like that. So what we've seen with that is we've seen multiple games within the Engine ecosystem use NFTs in very full ways, where it's heavily based in the game, and then very light ways where you're right, maybe it's just a couple of different things with elements of the game. Not the entire game is really tokenized or on the blockchain. So you always have elements that are going to be kind of half and half, or partial blockchain and partial on chain. So you have on chain transactions, or actual items. Typically, is what it is. And so items and stats tend to be something that is on chain and push the blockchain, and other elements of the game are more off chain, right? So they're just things that are inside that game's database and whatnot. So you definitely get this hybrid for gaming, and I think that works the best right now, because some of the tenets and the reason why it makes a lot of sense for gamers to incorporate blockchain, or to want to advocate for games to do it, is because they get to take value with them. So if you play a game like, we'll say Fortnite, which is one of the more popular games right now still. You spend money on skins there. It's a free to play game, but you spend money on skins and upgrades and things of that nature. Maybe you won a rare one in a contest, but you really can't do anything with them. You spent all this money on these digital skins, but they're just locked in a centralized database, and they're actually owned by Epic. You don't own them. You think you do, but you don't actually own those assets. You just kind of get the right to have them because you have an account with them. And so all that money's locked there. You can never do anything with it again. So if you decide, hey, I'm just done playing Fortnite, I've moved on to Call of Duty, or I'm playing something new, what happens? Well, all that money is left behind. All those assets are left behind. No one's really going to be able to use them again, including you, if you don't play the game anymore. And so now they're locked away. Maybe you have the rarest skin in the entire game, and now you can't get that or trade it to anybody else or get value out of it. But NFTs allow you to actually own the items and assets that you earn inside your game. And then, part of that whole, ecosystem is then being able to then sell them in a marketplace, whether that be a marketplace like OpenSea or, a game marketplace for themselves, or there's a multitude of different markets where you can already sell, buy and sell these NFTs for games. So I think that's one of the biggest tenets there, and what is really going on with that, kind of hybrid of how that works. The fact that, really we want to give the power of ownership back to users and make sure they can take that value with them. Or like I said, you use it in a different game, which is great. So maybe you're tired of this one game, but that's where you bought the asset. But oh wow, this new game you're playing, you can use it there as well. So maybe you don't actually
Hmm.
want to trade, or you don't want to sell it. So that's what's kind of
Yeah.
going on with what Engine is doing, and that's just one aspect of blockchain gaming. That's not even getting into all the other cool stuff.
Yeah, yeah. There's a ton going on. Um, in terms of like games that like do you think that Fortnite or some other major game like Fortnite, do you think it makes sense for them financially to do something like this? Because then all the money that they would be getting uh would otherwise like be up for, like you could obviously keep that and then sell it yourself. So they might be losing a lot of money by doing this, in the same way how like EB Games used to have a lot of, people would go and they trade in their games, but now everyone buys games digitally. So you don't really have that anymore. Do you think that they'll be incentivized to? Do you think that like we need to be pushing them to make that happen? What does that relationship look like, and how do you think that will progress?
Yeah, I mean, for developers, it's definitely a harder decision because there are obviously some financial concerns there. But I think that when they understand the model itself, which I really believe is going to be the next model for gaming, and we've seen different models of monetization come and go for gaming, and I really do think that will be the next one. And when you say, well, what's the incentive for a developer like Epic Games to be able to incorporate something like that? Well, you look at it like this, okay? So if I spent $100 on buying skins through Epic, because that's where you can get them from, right? And then I could sell them in a marketplace, right? A decentralized marketplace where Epic actually takes a cut or a small
Mm,
fee from those sales. So before, they're getting, maybe that you're buying the skins from them, and we'll say the majority, 100% of skin sales are through Epic, right? And so they're getting all that money. But they're not getting any resale value on those things. So then if they could then have a decentralized style marketplace where people could then buy and sell those things, they could be making way more money, I think, actually, in the long run, with transaction fees if they're putting a fee of 2, 3, 4, 5%, whatever me. Right now some of the standards we've seen is about 9% is about as high as we've seen some of these secondary markets, and their IP assets, which I'll get into here what that actually means in a second. But so you say, okay, well then now that reduces the amount of assets you might be buying from Epic directly, but because of the ability to trade and keep going back and forth, that same one asset may be traded 10, 15, 20, 30 times depending on what its desirability is and how it increases in value. And so right now they don't get any piece of that. You're getting a one-time fee of them buying on a platform. And the fact of the matter is most people would probably still buy the assets directly from them. But there'll be definitely a contingent of people who are on the markets looking for the cheapest one, or looking to trade it, getting a higher dollar value out of it, and they can recoup a lot of what maybe theoretically lost through people not buying as many skins directly from them. So I think that's
mhm.
where the incentivization comes from them, and we've already seen this happen in the Wax blockchain and marketplaces, where they've launched with some of these major IPs like Garbage Pail Kids. William Shatner did his own line of collectible cards just recently, and so these large IPs of very well known entities, they're being traded in secondary markets right now, and they the owner Tops is one of them, but also William Shatner. Tops Digital is the owner of Garbage Pail Kids, and so they're racking up these trading fees as people are trading them in secondary markets. And I mean, this has been hundreds of thousands of dollars, and that doesn't even include the initial sale. So, a lot of times what happens here is that, these initial sales are always happening on, their centralized site to begin with. So just like in the example I was just giving with Fortnite, if they're putting out a brand new skin or a brand new axe, well, the only way you can get it initially is to buy through them, right? So like I said, there might be a small percentage of people who would buy it directly from the get-go, but they would buy it in the secondary markets or something. But, I think that there's a lot of potential for increased revenue there.
Yeah, and that makes a lot of sense to me because I'm thinking about like CS:GO or like back in
Mm-hmm.
the day, people play RuneScape or World of Warcraft or whatever it would be, and they would get something valuable and then they would just do like, oh, pay me on PayPal and
Yeah,
do a transaction, but you still have to rely on the fact that they're actually going to give it to you and
yeah,
all
there's
this
trust
other.
problems. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, or people just sell their account outright. So people are still going to do this stuff anyways, but then Fortnite, Epic Games is not going to get a cut. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And if they want to, also it's just like it's good for the actual users. So it's like showing
Mm-hmm.
more, loyalty and respect to your user base. So yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I really hope that more game developers and different platforms like Steam and stuff try to get this integrated because yeah, that would just be massive. What are some other like interesting use cases for NFTs? Like I know one that I think is really cool is like unstoppable domains in ENS. Where you can get your like domain and then that is like an NFT that I hold on my
Yeah.
MetaMask. What are some other like interesting use cases that we have now or that like you expect to see in the future for NFTs?
Yeah, so I mean, you're right. The example Unstoppable is great, and some of the crypto domains out there I own, like CryptoStache.eth and a couple other ones, right? So I've already done it, and we've seen some of those domains actually sell for a massive amount in the
Yeah.
resale market here recently too. I think it was sex.crypto sold for like $90,000 on
Wow.
OpenSea recently,
Wow.
resold for that. And I mean,
Yeah.
people are getting residuals on those things, but as far as other cool use cases, so one of my other favorite ones is like virtual land. So there are a
Mm.
couple of these games that work in a way where it's like, oh, you have this virtual digital land that you actually own a piece of this world, this virtual world, and you can then go build things on it. So one of the very first ones that came out was called Decentraland, and so they have had kind of a first mover advantage. But there's a couple of other projects that have popped up, in particular the Sandbox, which I'm also involved with, where you can buy this virtual land, you can build games on it and monetize it in certain ways. So we're already seeing that in Decentraland. Sandbox is not yet released; they're actually releasing later this year. But very popular, and people are speculating on some of these lands. And so there are people who just, are digital land real estate traders, and so they're speculating on something being in a certain location or being accessible or next to something else. And there's different ways to monetize what you're doing on these lands. You can, like I said, build different games where you're paying crypto to play the game or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I think that's a really interesting use case for what is going on with NFTs. And each plot of land is represented by an NFT that you then own and can trade. And so we've seen that rise in popularity quite a bit here, actually, over the last year or so.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, there's going to be a ton of different use cases that we probably won't even be able to fathom until we see them. So let's dive into DeFi. What's got you excited about the space right now?
Nothing. I hate DeFi. No, I mean, so when I say that, what I really mean is I hate the fact that DeFi is really what's been pushing the if fees up.
Mm,
And because what that does is that crushes what's going on here in the NFT and gaming space. Like I said, for a $10,000 liquidity pool transaction for your favorite DeFi platform, a $20, $25, $50 if fee, maybe that's not that bad, but that really hurts everybody else in the ecosystem, unfortunately. And so, there's still a lot of really great tools that I think people are building out in DeFi. I would say probably 90% of what we're seeing right now in DeFi is complete trash, though. That's really my opinion. I would akin it to kind of like the 2017 ICO run up, where we saw people just like, initial coin offering of this crap coin and this shit coin. And it's just, it's when people see that happening, it's kind of this shark frenzy, like people just threw a bunch of crypto
mm,
blood out in the middle of the ocean, and, these sharks are coming for it. So, I think that there are some projects out there that are doing some very interesting things that are trying to help push the space forward. But that we've seen a lot of like pretty scammy projects pop up that, are essentially just elaborate pump and dump schemes that, people are, jumping on board thinking, oh, I can get quick gains. And it's the exact same. It feels exactly the same as it did in 2017. So, that's kind of how I see it right now, with like your yams and your sushis and other varieties of food-based DeFi tokens that have been out there that people have been jumping on board. But like I said, there are some very interesting projects out there that are doing things that are kind of pushing that space forward. In particular, I like the stuff that is not necessarily Ethereum based, because I think that they see the problem with scaling and with fees, and they're trying to actually solve some of those things. So like the whole Polkadot ecosystem is really pushing some things forward. I did a video recently about a couple of tokens I like here. That's one called Mantra DAO or Ohm token, and what they're kind of doing with that. And another one is like a Chainlink competitor, but it's essentially a crypto oracle that is decentralized and public, versus what Chainlink kind of has, where you can't publicly validate some of the information that they say is they're using as these bridges for getting real world data or price data. Most of the time is what they're using. People are using it for in DeFi projects onto their actual chain. So I think that there are a lot of really interesting things coming out of DeFi. But just like how we saw in 2017, how ICOs were helping some interesting projects come to light, the majority of what was going on there was just a money grab. And that's kind of what I think we're seeing right now, is that when we see things that are exploding like this, and it's so easy, things like Uniswap make it incredibly easy with the open source protocols to, launch the next, whatever, sushi 2.0 or whatever, like, rotten sushi is the next coming up. And so I think that incentivizes more people to put up tokens or projects that aren't necessarily really quality. They don't actually plan on delivering what they say. And we've seen it already here multiple times just over the last month.
Yeah. If crypto wasn't already a risky investment, the DeFi stuff is definitely not helping. But I mean, yeah, there's so much like that. It's just hard to even see through all the noise. That I would just say, like, the takeaway for most people watching is that you're probably best sticking with some of the safer coins. I mean, however safe you actually think they are. But yeah, like there's so many coins just popping up every day that, I mean, people just really need to focus on fundamentals and like good store value and all those important factors, rather than like just trying to jump on the next big price, a big pump and dump, and that's what everyone is always going to do. But that's why it's good that there's people like us doing our education and teaching people about all these things, and that's why I think this stuff is so important. So for earning passive income, that's also kind of DeFi. Like, what are some ways that you're taking advantage of that and doing that with crypto?
Yeah, I mean, passive income is a big part of what I do and why I'm, still here doing things. I really love that, cryptocurrency gives you the right avenues to be able to really generate something that can actually be passive. I mean, just like, sticking in, $1,000 into your savings account, it's you can say passive income because it's just sitting there, or if you're putting it in something like a money market or, a mutual fund, high yield, things like that. You're using your money to work for you while you don't have to necessarily do anything. It can be earning these things as you're sleeping, which I think is a really important income stream for anybody. But it's not always the hardest thing to get set up. When people talk about passive income, they talk about a lot of different things, but there are very few true passive income avenues. And one of my favorites has always been staking. So I've always been a big proponent of staking and staking-based platforms, because these give you, some good returns, good yields. They're, a lot of times these are well-established projects that, are stable. They're like I said, are about fundamentals. And so I've been staking on multiple platforms for quite some time, and I truly believe that's one of the best ways to do it. Now, like I said, what we've seen here recently with what people call, like yield farming, whereas you are providing liquidity for a token through a protocol like Uniswap, where you can then, you're essentially farming tokens by providing liquidity, and you're getting, these yields back. But it is a lot more risky, and takes a lot more, monitoring. It takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more, thought into some of these things a lot of times, and also a lot of times more fees. So, with some of these other platforms, they're not as fee intensive. So I've been staking with multiple platforms out there. I stake with Wax, with Tezos. I stake IOST. I stake Matic here recently. What else do I have staked? I mean, almost honestly, so many staking platforms. I don't even. Sometimes it's hard to really remember everyone. I have them all written down in a spreadsheet somewhere. But in general, yeah, if I can get a good amount of staking tokens, or for a good price, I want to try and lock them up for maybe a masternode if I can. Some of them are a little more expensive than others. You have like Dash is one of the more popular masternode coins where you can lock them up, and you're getting extra income. And because they were one of the first ones, they don't have maybe like soft staking yields that you see on some of these other coins. But then, just recently now, Cardano has come out with the ability to be able to stake on their net now with Shelley release. And so I really think that, passive income, that's one of the great things that I've seen here in crypto. And DeFi elements do start to take a little bit further, but I do feel like the risk is a little bit greater, and you do have to be more aware of what's going on. It's not not necessarily as much of a set it and forget it type of thing. Like some of these projects, like I haven't had to touch them or do anything for months, a year even. I check on them once, and we're like, okay, great, my balances continue to go up. Things are looking good. Hey, okay.
Yeah. And I think that's important, because I looked into like liquidity pool and stuff, and I was just like, this is way too active. Like I have to be checking on it a lot, and I really want just like true passive income. And what you said right at the beginning there, you said there's very few true forms of passive income, and I absolutely agree, because when most people hear passive income, it's just like, buy this course and I'll teach you how to get this, and you'll have all these different income streams, and it's like, okay, that sounds a little sketchy to me. Whereas this is a lot more like, you're not going to be getting crazy gains, but you're just building a consistent form of income that's coming in. So for people who aren't aware of like the difference between like soft staking and hard staking, and do you want to just kind of break that down for them, as well as do you typically just stake on the actual the platforms themselves, like for the specific project, or do you just like soft stake on on an exchange or something? I assume you probably don't, because it's not good to leave your funds on an exchange, but feel free to elaborate.
Yeah, so obviously the difference really between hard staking and soft staking. And hard staking is where you have it in a wallet and you actually lock those tokens up, and they're locked up in the system, and so you don't have access to them necessarily. Like now, each each blockchain has their own way of then releasing those tokens if you need them. Sometimes it's instant, sometimes it takes 3 days or something, as that kind of lockdown period that they use for security protocols. But in general, it just means that they're not accessible in your wallet. You can't use them. They're not available. Now, soft staking is something that's done usually through a centralized exchange, and that usually means that you do have instant access to them. So you leave them there, and they're accruing some sort of interest or rewards, based upon what your stake is there. And then, but you can withdraw that at any time, because essentially what they're doing is kind of helping you with that whole aspect. And just like kind of a bank almost fractionally reserves money, like they're holding it for you. So whereas they may have tokens locked up, they still have enough liquidity to be able to provide those tokens back to you if you want them back quickly, and they don't have to necessarily worry about the lockup periods, whether like I said, whether it's instant or whether it's a 3-day type of period. And so personally, most of my stuff is hard staked. I do have some coins that I do stake on Binance, so they have a pretty decent soft staking program. And in general, I always advocate don't leave money on your exchanges. You always want to hold your own private keys in your own wallet where you have full control over it. But when you're trading and doing things, it's not so bad to keep some of those balances on there. Don't keep high balances, really, but in particular, I'm going to keep a balance on my exchange account because I'm trading with that money. If I'm doing big buys or something and I want to sock it away into a hardware wallet, well, that's when I'd be sending it to my own private wallet. But I never leave really much money on an exchange ever. And if I do, a lot of times it happens to be probably something that I'm soft staking, where I'm like, okay, well, the risk here for me is not that high. I'm on a platform that I have some trust in. I'm always the person who's like, don't trust, verify, and that's like one of my crypto 10 commandments for sure. But your level of trust and level of verification it's not like a black and white thing. There's definitely a sliding scale of grayness there. I think that you got to say, okay, well, do I trust Binance in some sort of way? Like, yeah, a little bit. As far as I can throw them, but in general, soft staking is just one of those things where you have to understand what your personal risk is and what you're willing to put on there, because it can make it really easy. And there's some other platforms and things I've reviewed in the past too, where they're custodial type staking, where you're essentially entrusting your tokens into that platform, and they kind of make it easy to do multiple tokens or something at once. So yeah, like I said, it just really depends on your risk factor. But I would always say don't use the locations that are centralized or third party as your main staking platform.
Yeah. yeah, that makes sense to me. Yeah, and like I stake a bit on like BitMEX because I like their I like how you like just earn fees from the trading, and it's very passive. Because there's a lot of like staking where you also have to claim the reward. So like with
Yeah.
Tron, for example. Do you want to just briefly talk about that for people who might not be aware of the difference?
Yeah. So, like a good example of that is like KuCoin exchange. So, whereas something like that, where you have to go in and you have to actually claim those kinds of rewards. I also, when you're talking about Tron, so I also stake on the Wink.org platform. So I'm not sure if you're familiar with Wink, but it's
Yeah.
a crypto gaming and gambling site essentially for gambling. So they have a couple of different games you can play there, poker and dice game and things like that. And so I stake my tokens there. But I'm actually using my own personal wallet, so I'm using that wallet to be able to stake through their platform. But you do have to then go claim those things and then essentially restake them there too. So there is a process on some of these things where you do have to kind of do it manually in some sort of way. Same thing with IOST. So IOST is a platform I've been involved in since their mainnet, and they have some amazing staking rewards. But I have to go in and claim those, daily or whatever. They're all going to be there, but it is a manual process. So not
Mhm.
every, and so that's what I'm talking about. But I still I'm still using it and staking it through my own private wallet. So I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
Mhm. Yeah, and I think it's important to note that if you wanted to just let it go for a year and then claim it after the year,
it.
you're still going to get all those rewards.
Yeah.
But if you decided to claim it every day, you might be getting more rewards overall because of the compounding interest. If you can claim it and then restake it, that'll
Exactly.
help you earn a lot more. So it just depends how involved people want to be. So that's good that people have that option there.
Yeah.
Um, so, what are some misconceptions about cryptocurrency, or like some useful tips that you could give out for people who are just getting into NFTs or just getting into passive income or DeFi, and they might not be fully aware of some of the caveats?
Yeah, I mean, the best thing really is, always do your own research. I know people say this like over and over and over again. It's like, well, I'll beat that horse till it's dead and bloody and like rotting on the ground, because that's really one of the most important things here in crypto. Is I think a lot of people don't want to spend the time. And it's the same reason why they don't know shit about how the Fed works or how the US dollar actually works or how banks work. They don't want to spend the time that it takes to educate themselves of these things, because it's so much easier not to. It's like, meh. And so for a lot of people, it's easier to just follow some cartoon avatar on Twitter, and when he says buy this token or whatever, you're in his paid group, so you don't have to do your own. You have someone else doing the research for you. But a lot of times that can actually lead to losses and to heartbreak and to a lot of different things. I've seen it time and time again, and people saying, "Oh, I should have made the mistake. I should have listened. I should have done my own research." So I think that's a big thing when you're talking about any of these things. So whether it is NFTs or blockchain gaming, or DeFi products, on the gaming side, I talk with my community, because I have a pretty good community in Telegram, and we talk about blockchain gaming, NFTs a lot. And one of the concepts that's come up there recently is the idea of digital hoarding, right? So people who love these assets, they love buying them, but they just keep hoarding them and hoarding them. And like, you're not doing anything with them. If you're not playing the game with them or trading or something of that nature, you're just sitting here on this gigantic mound of digital assets. Be careful, because, games do come and go. So you may end up sitting there with, $1,000 worth of NFTs that you could have traded or even at least used while the game was working, but you just didn't do anything with them and they just sat there. So, I think that also, keeping that in consideration when you're talking about NFTs or blockchain gaming is also pretty important when you're coming into it. I try and look for projects that, like, I'm actually going to play this game, or I feel like other people are really going to play this game and I could trade this in a month and it's going to be worth more. So the idea of flipping assets, just like, popular people like Gary Vee, everyone's like, oh, that flip life, and he's all about, trading cards and things like that. And it's funny because a lot of people in the NFT space are always adding him and atting him on Twitter and saying, "Hey, Gary, get up! You got to get in NFTs, man. You're all, this is the next generation." And I think once someone like him is on it, and he's got millions of followers, we'll definitely see a lot of people wanting to dip their toes, thinking they can also, be traders and flipping digital assets, because it can be quite profitable. And in my opinion, a lot of times less risk involved with some of these digital assets that are game based or NFTs that are project based versus just speculative tokens.
Yeah, yeah, and especially like with times as they are now, a lot less garage sailing and checking all that stuff out. So I
Yeah.
think NFTs are kind of like the natural like transition that makes a lot of sense right now to be able
Sure.
to just do all this stuff online and just very very easily, just being able to transact it, like
So
from
easy.
your bedroom, right? So yeah,
I
so
don't want. I
I
don't want
think
to
that
ship anything, man.
yeah.
Shipping is like the worst thing ever, and then right now it's just horrible. So yeah, there's a lot of great benefits to it in the long term for everybody, I think.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, that's a great point too. Like just sitting there waiting, hoping that your package is gonna arrive and checking all the time, checking, seeing if it's arrived. Yeah, like you just avoid all that mess. So yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. So you are on a few different decentralized social media platforms. What has been your experience using like Library, using Hive, and what are your just general thoughts on decentralized social versus like the legacy platforms that most people are using, like Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube?
Yeah, yeah. All those legacy platforms, they suck, man. That's my take right there. Well, I mean, so they've had their place, and I think that I've transitioned away from Facebook almost completely. I left like my 5,000 friends there and whatnot, and I have a huge community of people there because I'm actually a musician as well. So I come from
Okay.
like the music side of things. I wasn't really in the financial industry or really financially like focused until after the 2008 crash, because that affected me pretty greatly. But so when it comes down to social media, though, I've kind of moved on. I'm trying to kind of really move on from some of those platforms, and work towards building on these decentralized platforms. So I got into Steemit in June of 2017, and I thought, man, this is great. I love this. And then I started to see, okay, well, there are some problems. The way that people kind of post and how they're really just trying to, farm this these Steemit tokens and also power and stuff through just crappy low quality posts.
Yeah.
And so I think that it's a great concept, and it is a great community. And then we've seen that transition into Hive now, which is what I support. I no longer support Steemit after the whole fork, and I don't know if you've talked
Yeah.
about that on your show. I'm assuming, but
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so I fully support Hive and what they're going and where the community went. I went there too, so I kind of abandoned Steemit from that. But yeah, I also use Library, which is a great platform, which is more of like a decentralized version of YouTube, right? And I've tried to move away from YouTube for some of those things. I mean, obviously, I still post on YouTube, but everything that I do goes to Library as well, and I push that platform. And I use Hive and put all my content on there as well. So anything that ends up on my website, my blogs and stuff like that, I always repost it on Hive, and I try and interact with the community there. I love the model of like incentivizing people, with good content. It's just, how do you get them to do good content? New
Hmm.
upstarts like Uptrend has been pretty cool. I've been on that here for the last couple of months. And I like what they're doing, and they have some pretty unique models with their Up token that they're doing with some staking type stuff there. So I really think that that's, a good basis for what we'll probably be using here in the future. And it just will take, I'm not sure what it is, but it'll take something. It'll be something that tips it in that direction. With Facebook, it was just, the decline of something like MySpace, where, Facebook gave this experience that was just so much better to people once they really launched to a wider audience. People started migrating there, and then you start to see that kind of happen with all these newer social medias. People were and then Instagram has been like one of the big ones, and Twitter's kind of been there the whole time, but it works differently for different people. They like it because of certain reasons, and then now we've seen TikTok just completely explode onto the scene, and and garner millions and millions of users globally. And so I think that it would just take something like that has a crypto base to it. But a lot of times, like I said, some of these platforms, it's hard to understand like how you earn and why you earn, and some of the tokenomics behind it. And most people don't give a shit about those things. Like we'll be honest, like they don't care how they just want to work well. And I think some of the features and some of those decentralized social media sites, they're there, but the experience is not better enough where they're going to drive in droves of people. Another site that I use is this decentralized, as well as it's called Theta. Theta is really great. It's like a streaming based site, and so I've been using that. It's very game focused too, and I think they have a really good platform. Like I said, as well as like Library, Uptrend, and a couple others, and what Hive is doing too. So they're definitely the front runners there. And I think that if they continue to innovate and bring in more and more users, the community has been very good on all those platforms, and I see them growing here quite a bit in the future.
Awesome. Yeah. There's so much out there for decentralized social, and I've said for a long time that I think that is one of the main avenues to mass adoption. If we do get one of those, like you said, like a big event where just a lot of people start all coming on to so like decentralized social platforms, and when they start to really realize the benefits, I think is when we'll see a lot more people. Like when they realize there's so much censorship going on Twitter and Facebook. I mean, if they haven't already, and finding that solution, or when they realize that their content could be getting them money, like they could be monetizing, but these platforms are allowing them to, and these new platforms like Library and Hive and all these different platforms will allow them to monetize their content like right away, or even from the perspective of like a user, not even a creator, and they could still earn money. So I think once people start to really realize all these things and see the value in it, maybe we'll see a lot more people going that direction. But for now, I mean, I just don't think there's enough like problems inherently that people are having with legacy platforms to look elsewhere. But as things get worse, because I mean, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, they're banning people every day. So I think as things continue down that route, maybe we'll see more people starting to transition, and that's my hope anyways. So what are your thoughts on diversifying your portfolio? Like, are you mainly in crypto? Do you invest in stocks, gold? Like, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, diversification is important. As much as I am a very strongly focused crypto guy, I am diversified. I do own stocks, but I didn't own stocks until after I bought Bitcoin. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
same.
that's not necessarily true. So I had before I started my company, and before 2008 actually. So before 2008, pre 2008, I was working for other people, and I had a 401k that was being company matched, and so I had money in there. And then I had that allocated pretty aggressively in mutual funds, like some aggressive tech mutual funds, and that got like decimated in 2008. So yeah, I did I mean, I wouldn't even consider me owning, stocks, because I wasn't really managing it. I didn't really know what was going on. I was just like, whatever. I threw it in here. That seems good. Sure, whatever. And then lo and behold, I lost about 70% of that value in 2008. I took what was left, I pulled it out, and I put it in Bitcoin in like July of 2017, which turned out to be a pretty dang good decision. But since then, I've then jumped back in and using apps like, Robinhood, make it really easy for average consumers to be able to transact and do stocks. And so yeah, I now own quite a few stocks. I have a decent stock portfolio, but it's still pretty heavy crypto. So so when it comes down to diversification, yeah, I definitely own stocks and I own crypto. but still mostly predominantly crypto. Not really into gold or silver or those types of commodities in particular, but not that I'm not. It's like, well, if I'm going to buy gold, I might as well just buy Bitcoin. It has very similar properties, but just better.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. What would you say your breakdown is? Like for me, it's something like 50% crypto, like 25% stocks, like 10% gold, and then like 5 or 10% in just like fiat.
Hmm. Yeah, I don't even count fiat in there because it's just not. It's not even really. But so
Yeah,
I
fair.
like personally, I'd say 85% crypto, 15% stocks.
Okay, okay. So pretty well invested in crypto. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
but
mean,
I will say though, with that goes, the amount of projects and things that I'm invested in within crypto are so incredibly diverse too. I feel like that kind of counts more towards my diversification.
yeah.
That's how
Yeah,
I
yeah.
justify it to myself.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think that makes sense. Like first diversify what you're investing in, and then further diversify, and then further diversify, and then diversify where you store it, and then you could
Sure,
just keep
sure.
going down
Yeah.
that route.
And
Um,
really real estate is like my next goal, so when it
yeah.
comes to rounding up my portfolio, I do want to get more into like real estate, which I'm not really in right now. But that's like, I feel like that's my trifecta right there. So crypto, stocks, real estate, those three, boom.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely agree. I hope to also get into real estate in the next 5 years or so. That's kind of my big goal too. Um, so that's pretty much everything that I have. One fun question: if you had $100,000 to invest today, where would you invest all that? Is that all Bitcoin, or do you have a few different things that you'd like to invest in?
That's a good, yeah. So 100,000, if I just had it right now and I need to invest it, I would say, yeah, I'd probably put a good percentage towards Bitcoin. Like I said, it's a great long-term hedge, and that's what I use it for. I'm not the person who's like, I'm not a day trader in that kind of respect. I'm all
Yeah,
about the long-term game. I'm more of an investor, right? And so I look for the long-term stuff. So yeah, I would probably put some, a good chunk of it into Bitcoin, and then take another chunk and then invest in top 20 to 50 coins on there. And then also I would definitely go into some stock stuff. Now if I thought that I could actually get some sort of real estate where I live here in California for 100,000, I might consider that. But like, you couldn't get a crack shack for $100,000 here in Southern California. So I think that investing in other assets, yeah, like stocks. I probably would take a little bit of a gold position too, just to kind of round things out a little bit, because that's not something that I've had experience investing in. And I like to be able to learn and grow in those types of areas. I got into doing stock option trading earlier this year, and I
mm,
did well for like a month until this whole shitstorm of things happened, and then nothing made sense anymore after that. I was like, fundamentals were out the window. It was just like crazy,
yeah,
and I got totally burned on that. But lessons learned. It was it was what it was. So
yeah,
always
yeah.
learning,
No,
growing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. I think a lot of my learnings have come from my losses and my mistakes,
Oh yeah.
and people watching need to definitely be sort of aware of that. Like you're definitely going to have losses, but you're going to learn from those losses. Don't expect it to just go in and just make a ton of money. Because yeah, I got into crypto in 2017 as well, and I ended up losing a bunch in the crash. But that's when I started to like look into like crypto social media and then everything that I do now. So that is everything for me. Where can everyone go to learn more about what you do?
So yeah, if you want to learn more about what I got going on the daily, you can go to cryptostache.com. It's Stache, like this beautiful thing right here in my face. And that's my home base for everything. So you can find out all my social links and things from there. But I'm on Twitter a lot. That's one of my main platforms and where a lot of my community's at. But I also have a really great Telegram channel. I have a Discord channel for gaming. I have a YouTube channel, library, Uptrend, Hive, and then I'm also on Twitch and on Theta. I actually do a really cool game stream every Thursday where I feature blockchain gaming. So it's always a different game every Thursday, and I dress as a secret agent. It's a whole thing. I'm not going to get into it right now, but you can check it out on Twitch on Thursdays. And yeah, that's the majority of the platforms I'm on. So you can always find me and what's going on my website, though.
Awesome, awesome. So everyone, make sure to go and check out www.cryptostache. Follow him, check out his stuff. Let me know what you guys think of everything we talked about: passive income, DeFi, censorship, decentralized social media, all that good stuff. Let us know what you think about that in the comments. And again, make sure to go and check out Crypto Stache's stuff as well. And thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it.
You got it, man.
Thanks so much for watching this video to the very end. Since you did, it'd be awesome if you could give this video a like and comment hashtag #1ham in the comments below. Also, it'd be awesome if you could subscribe to this channel and follow me anywhere under @ScottCBusiness, because I'm basically on every platform. You can find all the platforms that I am mainly using though at www.scottcbusiness.com. You can also find all my social links as well as my crypto addresses if you'd like to donate to me on Cointree at cointr.ee/ScottCBusiness. And you can also donate directly by donating to scottcbusiness.crypto or scottcbusiness.eth with supporting wallets. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I really, really appreciate your support. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scott C Business, signing off. Cheers.